Wow. You threw me. Threw me a real.
Well, come on.
I've seen this movie a bunch of times.
That's amazing. This is like The Sixth Sense when you suddenly like start playing all the scenes back through your mind once you just.
You get it. It's clicking.
And that's the thing because the whole. Well, come on, Mike. It's your thing. Come on.
Okay.
Spell it out.
Spin this out.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grande Bouffe, the big feast, with myself, Cole Smithey, and my co-host, Mike Lacy, and our special guest, Steve Mazzucci. As always, we are here to copiously consume international politics and culture through the prism of a single film and a different craft beer each week. Good evening, Steve and Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
We got you right? Is that a good pronunciation?
Mazzucchi? Yeah, I think you're about there.
Mazzucchi.
Mazzucci is how it's pronounced about 95% of the time. So
Oh, Mazzucci.
when you get that hard K, I'm pretty stoked.
Oh, okay.
Mazzucchi is,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, so you're the editor-in-chief of MadeMan.com?
I am, yes.
Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about Made Man, will you?
Made Man is a men's lifestyle website. So we cover grooming, style, dating, entertainment, booze, cars, all kinds of really boring stuff.
Booze, cars, women. Yeah, it's boring. Give me a little boring. More boring, please.
Yeah, but you get no traction on stuff like that.
Nobody
Nothing.
wants to read it, but we just feel like it. It needs to be part of the public record.
It's like NPR. It's like PBS. It's good for our souls.
Mm-hmm.
Just people might not want to read about it.
Yeah, it's like broccoli.
It's broccoli.
Yeah.
Yeah, boobs are the broccoli of the internet. I've always said that.
Even when I was a child, I said that. But I loved broccoli, so what do I know? So I just want to talk about our beer briefly because it is such a sweltering day in New York City that when Steve came into the studio, we had to give him a towel and a glass of water immediately and revive him.
Well, he biked like 40, no, more than that.
Yeah, from 35th Street. So
up to 90th. Yeah. He's not just a weird sweat monster.
I am, but I also biked really far. Yeah.
All right, so I chose a refreshing beverage for us, the new Belgium Juicy Watermelon Lime Ale, because just the idea of watermelon and lime on a hot day just sounded really tasty to me. And I see that it's a 5% ABV, so you can drink it and not get too messed up, as it were. What do we think, gentlemen? Cheers.
Oh, cheers.
That is very refreshing.
Yeah, that's magical.
That's quaffable.
Yeah, to think that this will refresh me, feel good, and get me wasted is very exciting.
Well, not too wasted, but yeah, it's a...
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
New Belgium. It says cool off, which is our idea, with this refreshingly fruity summer beer brewed with watermelons and limes. Yummy. I can taste both, and I'm going to drink a little out of the bottle just because.
You're a wild man.
So, Steve, you've brought us Beverly Hills Cop, 1984, and I understand that you are friends with the screenwriter.
I am, yes.
So we want to hear all about that.
Okay, sure. Well, first off, I should say that my experience with this movie goes back to my childhood. I come from a somewhat conservative home, and so was never allowed to watch rated R movies. And so I, off of, I think, basic cable, I VHS taped Beverly Hills Cop.
Ooh.
And it was a movie that I would watch on a loop when I was homesick from school, but it was the edited for television version. So probably the first 20 times I saw this movie, it was with all the terrible...
So where did you grow up?
My dad was in the Army, so we moved around, but I was living in mostly, I can picture this couch in Virginia when I was about like 10 or 12 years old.
Oh, you from Virginia?
We're both from Virginia, actually.
Fairfax,
That's where I'm from.
Oh shit! Seriously?
We
Are we allowed to say that on the? Are we?
We're gonna say where the fuck you want.
I'm from Richmond.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, nice. All right.
I'm from Vienna.
Oh, okay, yeah. My sister's husband is from there. So,
Oh wow.
Wow, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
Click, click,
Yeah.
click.
This is intense stuff, listeners. This is happening live.
Yeah. Anyway, so I did at that age. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it, and it cracked me up, and I don't know. It was just such a fun it's one of the first action comedies, and it really spoke to me in that way. And then maybe 10 years later, I moved to LA as a hopeless aspiring screenwriter, and I went to a Writers Guild of America event, and I met Dan Petrie Jr., who's the screenwriter of the movie, and we kind of struck up a friendship that's continued to this day. And I got on the phone with him a few days ago just to kind of ask him a few questions about this movie.
What did you ask him?
I kind of asked him for the backstory on it because I'd always heard that Sylvester Stallone was originally supposed to be the main character.
No, I heard this from not as an authoritative of a source. My friend Nick told me that.
Okay.
But apparently I think he might know more than my friend Nick, the screenwriter of this film. So he confirmed that.
Yeah, so Dan did confirm that. And essentially, it was a situation where Paramount at the time, he told me that Paramount basically owed Sylvester Stallone a favor because he had directed Staying Alive, which was the reason that John Travolta came back to do Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever, was because Stallone was directing.
Stallone a couple years off Rocky.
Yeah, not that far off of that. And basically,
I think Rocky was 76. It came out about the bicentennial, and then Saturday Night Fever was even later. It was,
and then Staying Alive was
Staying Alive.
Yeah. So basically, there was an arrangement with Paramount where any script that that they had greenlit or that they had acquired that they wanted to move forward with that had a role that was anything Stallone friendly, he had to have the first look at it.
Wow.
And so they would send him all kinds of stuff, and to their surprise, he liked Beverly Hills Cop and wanted to do it. He then went in and completely rewrote it, and
shocker,
into not a comedy, into a much more intense action film.
It started as a comedy.
So going even further back, it started as sort of a standard action cop movie, and then Dan Petrie was brought in 3 or 4 screenwriters in, and he said that the original idea was a cop from Pittsburgh comes to solve a murder in Beverly Hills.
Pittsburgh.
And at the time it was Pittsburgh, yeah. And he thought it was he could only picture this as a comedy. And he was living in Beverly Hills at the time and surrounded by this environment of wealth and just, goofiness. And he didn't have any money at the time, so he felt like he actually had this deep connection to this idea of an outsider coming in and trying to make his way through this town, but he viewed it as a comedy. Anyway, so Stallone writes it into this action thing to the point where the budget goes way out of control, and they approach Stallone and they basically say, we're either going to move forward with the original script with you in it, or you can literally take all the elements that you put into it, take them out, and you can actually have a whole new script and do your own thing with that. And Stallone took the latter option, and that's what became the movie Cobra.
That's amazing.
So from this sort of creative, this creative stew, 2 movies emerged.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild. So at that point, then they were a month from shooting, and these projects that they were developing with Eddie Murphy hadn't panned out, and they got him the script to Beverly Hills Cop, and he almost immediately said he wanted to do it. And so a month later, he was in LA, and they started shooting. And the only change that Dan said the only change he wanted was that the main character was in his 30s, and he wanted to be his own age, which was 23 at the time, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Was he 18 on SNL?
I think he was a teenager, yeah. And then another 48 Hours he was or the original 48 Hours I think he was 20 maybe.
Oh, wow.
Which is just
so
crazy.
That was before that was before this 48 Hours. He's even
48 Hours was a couple years before.
I want to watch that again because it's really nuts how young Eddie Murphy is, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but also just his style of acting is so subdued and naturalistic. It's especially compared to Bowfinger, Miracle Man, hello,
yeah, it is crazy to go back, and I watched it a couple of times just in the past week to refresh my memory a little bit, and his his like. I mean, he's really acting. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a buddy movie without the buddy, is what it feels like to me.
Yeah,
you know, because the buddy gets killed. Spoiler alert! If you guys are, if you've never seen the movie,
so my 2017 eyes, I watched this movie, which I've seen before. It's been a long time. I saw something else this time. You know the screenwriter, Cole. I mentioned this to you.
Yeah,
you weren't totally shocked by this. Axel?
I wasn't
Foley.
shocked.
You were not shocked at all.
No,
Axel
I was on your page immediately. What are you talking about?
You were not shocked. Axel Foley, he's gay, right?
Whoa! Now that's the question I should ask Dan. That's hilarious. Whoa! I mean, it's interesting because, wow, you threw me. Threw me a real
well,
curve.
come on.
You've seen this movie a bunch of times.
That's amazing. This is like The Sixth Sense when you suddenly like start playing all the scenes back through your mind once you discover.
You get it?
And that's the thing because you know the whole. Well, come on, Mike. You know it's your thing. Come on.
Okay.
Spell it out for us.
Okay, so we've got it playing right now. Okay, on the TV. And so the sort of the inciting incident of the movie is his old friend Mikey comes back from Detroit. He's been in jail for a while.
Comes back from L.A.
No, he was in jail and then he got out and was in LA for a while and now he's in a little hot water. And we learn about their backstory and Eddie Murphy though he's a cop but he doesn't really play by the book. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie where like there's a cop who doesn't play by the book, but this might be the only movie that's like that.
Well, he's flying by the seat of his pants. He's driving this Nova that's probably worth about $100.
Totally beat to shit.
And he never wears anything other than a Mumford T-shirt or a cut off. You know, he's wearing jeans and sweatshirts through the whole. You know, he's one of these guys who he is everything in his life. He's not one of these people who my car is my identity or my apartment or my stuff. He's
an action hero guy, which is why my reading of this film I think is pretty interesting because he's a just classic action movie guy, but he's got this friend who shows up, and this is my first clue into this theory that I have. We don't have to make the whole episode about it.
Yeah, no, this is interesting now.
But his friend Mikey, they're talking about when he went to jail, and Eddie Murphy, Axel, says, so how come you didn't rat on me? How come you took the heat? Mikey looks him in the eyes and says, because I love you.
Right.
And then if it's gonna come up in a bit on the TV,
yeah,
I think what happens is it's basically a smash cut to them drunkenly trying to get his apartment door open, and he's like, I got it, hold on, let me. And then they get interrupted rudely, and Mikey is soon after murdered by Mike from Breaking Bad.
Right? Yeah, Jonathan Banks. Yeah. One of many people who appear in this movie in small roles.
Like Paul fucking Reiser.
Paul Reiser is in it.
What
of course.
Scene?
Bronson Pinchot and freaking Damon Wayans.
Wayans. I love the Damon Wayans. And again, this brings us to another Mike point.
Damon Wayans and Bronson Pinchot playing these very stereotypically gay
effeminate characters.
Very
That's true.
effete.
And of course, Axel Foley does in that one scene as well.
Yeah, Axel does it too. But what does Damon Wayans do? He gives. This is like the sort of the.
This is amazing.
This is basic. Like I have like
so like Freudian. I
have like two more like data points on this. But like one of them is what does Damon Wayans do? Is this very stereotypically like a effete character does? He gives Axel bananas to put where?
No, but wait a minute. Axel only asks for 2 bananas, but he gives him 3.
He gives him 3 bananas, and where does he put them? In a tailpipe.
The tailpipe. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Interesting. So I don't know. I see it as some. It's
all right. Wait a minute. You got to hit the third one. You got the third one. Come on.
Well, okay.
Another point.
There's all the stuff with Billy, with Judge Reinhold. At the end of this movie, there's like a very weird amount of "I love you, Billies."
Right.
And I was watching on Amazon Prime on my phone, and I took all these screenshots with the subtitles on. And so at the end, we got Eddie Murphy in a sling, and he's saying to Judge Reinhold, I want you to have this fine Beverly Palm robe.
Right.
Each time you get out of the shower and you're dripping wet for the rest of your life, I want you to think about our friendship. I love you, Billy.
Wow.
There it is. I mean, I have to say, when Mike said it, I did not see it when I watched the movie. It's the first time I've ever watched the movie. But as soon as it came out of Mike's mouth before he explained anything, I immediately got it. that this, yes, it is a very clear subtext in the it is intrinsic in Axel's character.
Also, there's a potential love interest, which is that old friend from Detroit,
right, Jenny Summers.
Yeah, Jenny Summers. And there's a scene where they're on the bed together, and it's like,
it's not sexual.
Not sexual.
Yeah.
And she kind of, I mean, she's the damsel in distress. She's rescued by him. You'd think they'd be
But she's
saved.
also butch. Yeah. Oh, well, sure, because he tries to get her to not come along on the ride, but she's in it, and also when the gunman's got her, she goes
give him
for
the
it.
elbow.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, this movie, like, there's a lot of like people. It's kind of very intersectional, to use current terminology, because he's not being taken seriously because he's a cop from Detroit, because he like is a black man, and he also, like, the real sort of like opposites coming together is he's not by the book, and the Beverly Hills cops are totally by the book, which, you know, is a very true thing about the LAPD, as like the OJ case really made clear. They're always by the book and like very above board and reasonable people. Like,
I was
it was like,
I have to say, one of the things that I could not get out of my head while I was watching this movie is that this is 1984. So this is long before anyone had done the math on the fact that American police murder between 1,000 and 1,500 people a year, and have been doing so for so many decades that we can't even begin to scratch the surface of the thing, and that 5/6 of those people are unarmed. And it's a weird time flip to look at this movie through that scope and say, wow.
How crazy to be okay, so who's our square characters that always do things right? The LAPD.
Right.
Like, yeah, no one's ever said anything bad about
okay, so that, you know, that raised an interesting point, though, that I the second time I watched it just the other night, I thought about, because there's a point where Bogomil, the lieutenant, is
the big honcho.
Well, yeah, when he's asking, you know, Taggart and Rosewood to investigate, he says something about, like, I want the FBI, the LAPD. So then I'm wondering, is the Beverly Hills Police Department supposed to be distinct
I think
from the LAPD?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Like,
yes,
but I still, I mean, I'm not. You know,
it's like.
It does come off that way.
Is that like city cops versus the state?
It's their precinct.
I don't know.
It's like that precinct.
Yeah.
It's like if you watch Serpico, you know, he keeps getting switched between precincts, because they know that he won't play ball.
I
won't play
don't
dirty
know
ball.
that much about how the hierarchy of police works, but I'm willing to say that neither does this movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was just reading today that the Beverly Hills Police Department, so Martin Brest, the director, worked on War Games, but I think he was either fired. He was fired like halfway through or something.
Interesting.
And he had developed this set for War Games. And that's
This
apparently
makes so much sense.
That's apparently what they used for that Beverly Hills Police Department, which is like, I mean, they're trying to contrast it with the Detroit one that has like no computers and is just like desks and lockers.
So high tech,
but it's like so ridiculous.
They have
and, like radars, and they can like look. I'm like,
they have
this
GPS.
is like
something
they have
out of
GPS on the cars.
It's like something out of Minority Report.
Yeah.
You expect Tom
It's
Cruise to be
amazing,
using
right?
his hand to move stuff around, and it's 1984.
But it is drawing.
Martin Brest, who went on to direct such wonderful films as Geely.
Oh wow!
Wait, really?
Oh wow!
What else has he got on there though?
Well, he did better than that. Beverly Hills Cop was 84, and then he did Midnight Run, which is a classic, and then Scent of a Woman.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
But then Meet Joe Black, that's a stinker right there. And then that was it. That sent him into Geely, and that was the end of the spiral.
Was that literally like the last movie he ever did?
The last movie he directed in 2003.
What a note to go out on.
Yeah, pretty sad.
Scent of a Woman's a really good movie, though.
Which one? Scent of a Woman's great.
Yeah. There are Oscar nods.
So is Midnight Run.
Yeah.
I do. If I can jump back to your mind-blowing observation, so I didn't ask Dan specifically about that, but I did ask him about the fact that there was no real romance besides like the bromance, basically,
right.
And you know, no families. It was very like efficient in that way, that it didn't have those elements. And I will say, you know, he said he wanted it to be about, you know, about the cops and about this fish out of water coming in, and not about him like wanting to move to Beverly Hills or falling in love or anything. And I will say romance is shoehorned into a lot of films, I think, to their detriment. And I do, regardless of how it came to be and what Axel's sexual orientation is, I do think it works better that they don't have that element at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's really great. And so, I was sort of like, I don't mean to poke fun at it. I find it like if I'm right, it's a very fascinating and interesting thing to have.
Well, it makes the movie a lot more interesting. It makes it gives it, if you look at it through that filter, it gives it a whole new meaning. I think it's a fun way to look at it.
Let's look at the movie as just like it's about like male friendship and about this very interesting character between two worlds, which is Axel Foley, who his best friend is a criminal,
right?
Who he used to like run with and commit crimes with,
right?
And so he's got friends in low places, and now he has friends in the Beverly Hills Police Department who are just ride or die with him,
right?
Like who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Dominic Toretto of the Fast and Furious franchise. He's got friends in high and low places,
right? Yeah,
but unlike Dominic, who's plays everything close to the vest, this guy will come out and say that he loves you,
right?
Yeah,
he'll tell a dude that he loves
right
him.
Yeah, I almost feel like I'm minimizing it to be like, oh, he's gay and like this is him love, because it's like, no, it's honestly a more profound and provocative thing to do in a movie.
Right.
It's like a straight man or like any man saying to another man, like, I love you, we've worked together, I trust you, I like value our relationship.
Right. Well, and it is, I mean, Eddie Murphy's kind of, I mean, I wonder if he's being a little subversive there because like in Delirious, which was around the same time, he, it's a very politically incorrect stand-up,
Which suit is he wearing?
He's wearing that red leather.
Yep.
I thought that was Raw.
Maybe it's both, honestly, but I just...
Oh, he drops the F-bomb a lot,
Well,
right?
yeah, but he does this whole bit. Okay, now I gotta double check because I feel like I could have sworn he was wearing the red.
I think the red suit is for Raw.
Oh wait, there you go. Yeah, it might be in both, but yeah, that was.
Yep. Yeah.
That amazing.
Yeah. And in this movie, he laughs at a couple of guys who are wearing
in those the
Michael Jackson kind of thing.
Right, exactly. But he does this whole bit, this whole sort of bit, not necessarily even poking fun at homosexuality, but it's like, I mean, because he kind of attacks everybody in that thing, but it's this weird. He has this sort of odd relationship to it where he can, like, I think, make fun of it, but also sort of. Yeah, there it is. There's the scene.
You got two guys in what is both like a thriller costume and a Eddie Murphy.
Right, it is. That's
right.
exactly what it is.
But what we're not saying is that there's like the top and the bottom, because there's two of them and they're guys.
Oh, wow,
and they're wearing like the inverse of costumes for each other, right?
That's
Come
interesting. And now he's walking into the art gallery where he's about to meet Bronson.
Some
Pinchot.
very phallic imagery already popping up, so to speak.
Yeah. No, I mean, like. There is a gender studies thesis to be written on this film. Like,
that is interesting.
The one thing that I have to say about this movie that I really it just drove me nuts the whole time is Harold Faltermeyer. Yes, that's the composer.
Here we go.
Like it or love it, it's one of the most iconic.
Oh my god!
Themes ever.
It never ends.
It
hits you over the head.
It is inescapable. Yeah. And you know what's funny? Last night I was Googling some of the music and I found the video for that song, which is, you guys will have to watch later.
There's no lyrics.
Harold Faltermeyer, and he's like this private eye with like sunglasses and a fedora, like sneaking into this.
I'm like breathless.
This office building.
It's like neo-noir.
Yeah, and it is. And then suddenly he's on a computer and he's typing, but he's sort of just like playing the notes, and then on the computer pops up scenes from the movie. And it gets real like meta, because then later, in the movie there's the part where they're watching the security footage.
Yeah.
So then he starts popping up in the movie's and it's like, and then there's like little scenes where like there's a scene in the movie where Rosewood like runs across the street. So they show that scene, and then Harold Faltermeyer in his trench coat, and it is like projected onto the screen, running next to him.
Oh
it's bonkers.
God.
It's like it's a strange trip.
It's so 80s.
And it's so completely 80s. And he's got 3 keyboards, by the way, when he's performing.
Of course. Nice.
3 keyboards and 6
keyboards.
notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
You're like, you needed 3 keyboards for that? Seriously?
Does
So
one
funny.
of them have with the black keys, where it's reversed?
Oh,
I like that one.
Yeah.
Where I like those keyboards where it's.
The rest of the soundtrack kind of blew my mind in its unlistenableness. Like, I don't know. What do you like? What do you like more? Do you like the just standalone keyboard of Axl's theme, or do you like the most 80s score in the world, which is every other song in this?
Yeah, the heat is on.
Yeah.
Stir it up.
Oh.
Doing the neutron dance.
Oh my God! Well, listen. There's a reason that Elvis Costello called the '80s the decade that music forgot.
Right.
You know, there is a reason, and
so many films are just marred by these scores. Like you love them, and then you go back and you actually watch these movies, and you're like, oh wow, someone really needs to remaster this with a different soundtrack.
I mean, it does kind of root it in the.
This not to a detriment though. This one goes with it.
Like I'm gonna try to resist the urge to defend this movie at every turn because I definitely do have like a strong love for it. But I can,
But
if I can totally.
But if they took it like in a more homey direction where it was like Los Lobos and X, if there was like some like cool,
right.
like that because that was the music that in 1984 I was living in San Diego and the Blasters, there was a lot of great music around,
right,
but it just wasn't making its way into the mainstream.
Can I point out a scene is about to happen that I find really crazy is this is the one heterosexual thing that Axl says, which is he's meeting his old friend Jenny from the block, and
she really was Jenny from the block.
She really was, yeah.
And he hasn't seen her in forever, and I think it's right after this. She, they're talking. She turns around. They do a little.
She doesn't even kiss him. Barely.
And then he goes like, "Oh, Jenny, you really filled out."
Oh yeah, it's right before this, I think.
Yeah.
Before he tells her about.
Yeah, Jenny, you really filled out.
Yeah.
But it looks nice.
Yeah.
And it's just, first of all, this actress is 106 pounds. Like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yes, and then there's also the scene where he grabs the mannequin's boob.
Oh yeah,
for a moment, which I mean that could go either way.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and they do go to a strip club.
Okay, but I watched the strip club having already developed this theory, and he is doing nothing.
You've prepared. Okay, you've prepared defenses.
Like the council has done due preparation in his scene discovery, and he's doing nothing but mocking other men's ability to have erections at the strip club.
Wow, man.
He's just going, oh yeah, boss man can't get a hard one because he's on duty.
But it's okay if it is hard.
What's he doing at a strip club? He's talking about other men's penises. Okay,
that's true. Just
saying.
Wow. That's true. He's taking these guys to the place where he knows that'll work for them.
Yeah, it's an interesting scene though. And so the other thing I'm doing is I watch this movie as like, what are the beats that you have to hit for this type of film? And like that seems interesting because you have a fish out of water. They don't trust you. They keep arresting him like over and over. So this is where he turns the tide and gains their trust. Is that coincidentally this strip club that they took them to, a robbery happens. Do strip clubs get robbed? Like, I don't like.
Yeah,
I was thinking like there is a lot of cash there.
I guess so, but it would be hard to consolidate it, right? You'd be like, oh, geez, you got to stand here until they count out all the ones.
That's what you call a plot hole big enough to drive a truck through. But it's fine because in the realm of this weird Beverly Hills crime syndicate thing, it's always the warehouse. What's the warehouse? Getting to the warehouse. It's always, all the stuff is simplified to this cartoonish level, this very caricature.
But
level.
It's simplified. But like, I love these films are so watchable. Time goes so quick watching them. And I'm wondering, so you were trying to be a screenwriter. I'm not sure what kind of screenwriter you're trying to be. Did you think about things in this sort of language that screenwriting?
Yeah. Did you write it? Did you write a script? Did you actually?
Yeah. So I have a screenwriting partner, Sean Donnelly, who's the one that I host our podcast Six Pack with. We've been friends for years.
Give a shout out to your podcast,
guys. Yeah. So a friend of mine, Sean Donnelly, and I have a podcast called Six Pack, and
Good name for a podcast.
thanks, yeah.
Six Pack, can't forget that.
And yes,
it's a men's health thing. It's about your physique.
Right. Well, that's fun. If you look for Six Pack on iTunes, there are several podcasts that are dedicated to abdominal development.
Not
Ours
yours.
is not. Ours is the one with a drawing of an actual six-pack of beer.
There you go.
Your abdomen could definitely augment from drinking a lot of six
Right,
packs.
it's a different kind of augmentation. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we drink a six-pack of a different beer each week, not unlike you guys in some ways. But we and then we talk about 6 different topics. So, but yeah, so we're also screenwriting partners, and so we moved out to LA for this. We've written probably like 6 or 7 scripts.
Oh, wow.
Together
Awesome.
at this point, and we've gotten better each time.
What genre?
Mostly comedy.
Okay.
The most recent one was. It's called Michael J. Fox Must Die, and it's
Nice. That's a good title.
It's a movie about Eric Stoltz, modern day Eric Stoltz, down on his luck.
Yep.
Eric Stoltz
Yep.
going back in time to prevent himself from getting fired from
Just
Back to the Future.
watching those weird deleted.
Exactly,
scenes.
they're so weird. Right?
They're so weird. You've seen these, right? Eric Stoltz, Marty McFly. It's wow.
I
bought a ticket. I bought a ticket.
All right, I like it.
I'm
all
in.
right, we got
I'm
one.
in.
All right,
I love it.
We got one signed up already.
I've completed one screenplay, also with a partner,
Okay.
my buddy Ted Rawl. We wrote a screenplay called Rampage in Rego Park,
Nice. I like the title.
based on the headless body in topless bar
Oh, the legendary headline.
incident. Mike knows a little bit about it because he's read the treatment for it.
It's graphic.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Never has an outline kept me up at night.
It sounds gripping. No, that is like the most legendary New York newspaper headline.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's a movie by that title. And as soon as our original title was Headless Body and Topless Bar, and somehow the guy who wrote the movie, which had yet to be made, which I've seen, it's not good. He got in touch with us, to tell us like, you can't use my title, and that's why we changed it to Rampage in Rego Park, which I think is a much better title anyway.
Yeah.
But Headless Body and Topless Bar, you have to really search it out, but it's out there, and it's a very interesting little.
The script is out there. You're saying?
No, the movie. The movie was made.
The original movie with that title.
that
movie
title.
was made.
It was
under
made.
the-
And does it have anything to do? Is it the same story?
Yeah,
Or,
it's a riff on the same incident.
okay.
Wow.
I'm under the impression you can't copyright titles. Not that this is a legal podcast all of a sudden, but that's.
Well, I can understand his point, and there's nothing wrong if you find. I think if you found out that somebody else was working on something and had your title, I think
if it's a similar.
He didn't try and big dog us with the attorneys or anything.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like,
I actually think you'd probably have a better case if it's a similar thing. But if you make a movie called like Steven, you can't be like, well, mine's a horror movie and yours is a romantic comedy. You can't call it Steven.
Yeah. Well, there are. That's interesting because like there are 2 movies called Kicking and Screaming.
right, and both of them suck though, right?
Yeah, one's the Will Ferrell
soccer
one,
dad
and then
movie.
what's the other one?
And then the other one is
is it like Lars von Trier?
No,
isn't it like Noah?
Noah Baumbach?
Is it him or no?
Yeah,
Who is it?
I don't
Or
know. I
it's
think
sort of
that-
a
I think
disaster.
that is-
I get those 2 confused.
I think-
No, but it is pre-mumblecore in that way.
Yeah.
I'll look it up real quick.
I'm blanking right now, but like there's a lot of movies that have
That are
the-
like very
the same
different, that have
name
the same
that are
title.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think if you're doing a similar movie, okay. Well, okay. This is now illegal.
Okay,
this is now a legal podcast.
So I'm looking at IMDb, and I see at least 3 movies called Kicking and Screaming. 2 of them use an ampersand, but I haven't even gotten to the one that I'm looking for, which I think might star Eric Stoltz.
I was gonna say I think it is an Eric Stoltz movie. I think you're correct. It's like a coming of age Eric Stoltz movie.
I think
It is so bad.
I think you're
Yeah,
onto
yeah,
something
yeah.
that I would, if I were Eric Stoltz, I would really hate.
that I remember that movie
effects.
used to play on the Ren where I went to college in Missouri, the Residence Hall Entertainment Network. Kicking and Screaming. That Eric Stoltz
and
one.
it is Noah Baumbach.
I was gonna say, okay, yeah.
Eric Stoltz, Noah
Oh my
Baumbach.
Yeah.
The circle is
Oh,
complete.
I think there's some other stars too. right?
Yeah, Josh Hamilton. Let's see. Are there any names in it? Oh, there's
Oh, not Catherine Keener, Catherine Kellner. Oh, Olivia D'Abo. She was the older sister in Wonder Years. I remember that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I remember. I think I walked out of this movie.
Parker Posey.
Parker Posey.
That is low billing for Parker Posey.
Yeah,
that's a
very
bummer.
low, very low. 1995,
So there
same
you
year,
go.
same year as Breaking the Waves. Speaking of Lars von Trier,
There you go.
so high and low. There you go. I think it's funny. I just want to put it out there that like everybody's acting like. Christopher Nolan's, oh, he's done Dunkirk. I'm
Like he's
completely off subject, but he's like,
it's fine.
he
made a real movie.
Yeah, oh yes, but he is a director to be reckoned with, and it's every critic is saying, oh, it's the best thing he's ever done. Now, I haven't seen the movie yet. I will see it, but my take on it is that he's, it's a romanticizing, war, and if I never see another movie about World War II, it'll be too soon.
Right.
If you haven't seen Elim Klimov's Come and See, it is the ultimate war movie. It's by far and away the best war movie ever made. But my thing about Christopher Nolan is, man, this guy is not. I mean, yeah, sure, CGI, la la la.
Right.
He's not a great filmmaker.
I think
he is not a great. There are great filmmakers, but to pretend that this guy is a great filmmaker,
Strong take.
is just
It's a strong take.
is just Maybe one day he'll be a good filmmaker, but
I think he's. Well, I don't feel as strongly, but I think he's like an amazing DP. I kind of also feel like visually he's an amazing filmmaker. I kind of feel like he's never talked to a human being before.
Well, this is my point. This is my point.
Autistic.
I don't know if he gets, what are they called, the things that you make stand around and say lines and I don't know if he gets like how those things
with
work.
eyes and mouths.
I don't know if he understands them at all. Like, so that's why I think his best movies are superhero movies, because you don't really need
You don't have to have actual humans.
Yeah,
the scenes are very flat. The scenes in his movies. I mean, I've been looking at a lot of Kurosawa stuff lately because I just did a video essay on Kurosawa, and I'm working on another video essay about this one particular technique that I'm not going to mention, because I'm keeping it secret, that Kurosawa uses a lot, but
he rubs butter on the lens.
No,
no, it's margarine.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. I'm See, but now I'm busted. Anyway, and so you could take, there are directors like Hitchcock or Kurosawa or Quentin Tarantino, and you can take any scene out of any one of their movies, any scene, just randomly take a 45 seconds sequence and match that up against any random 45-second sequence of a Christopher Nolan movie, and you will see such a divergence. You will see such a difference, because one
has Batman in it.
one has layers and the other one doesn't, and it's you know it when you see it.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was anticipating that movie, and then one of the women from one of the other websites that my company owns, as I mentioned, there's a teen and then girl with a U, G-U-R-L.
Girl.
One of them mentioned something about Harry Styles from One Direction.
Harry Styles isn't it?
Is in Dunkirk. That kind of threw me off.
If you're into that, you'll love.
I guess if Ed Sheeran can be in Game of Thrones.
I was about to say, if you love that, you'll love season 7, episode 1 of Game of Thrones. I was about to say that.
I guess there's just no holds barred, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know, that kind of thing.
I think to the Game of Thrones thing. My thing is, I think just like Cersei knows she needs the teen vote now, and so she's just filling the screen with the heartthrobs.
I'm one episode away from the end of Bates Motel, and I have to tell you, it's the best fucking thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Vera Farmiga is a genius. She executive produced the thing, and if anybody has any doubts about, I have this theory that people are always talking about how no one can act anymore. And there's no great actors anymore, and I get that, and I think that the real story is there's no great male actors anymore. Although Freddie Highmore is terrific.
That's the kid on the show.
Yeah, and Max Thoreau is really good too. But the real story is actresses, because there are some actresses out there that are just taking names and chewing bubblegum. Naomi Watts, Vera Farmiga. Wow, everything those women touch is just
So,
phenomenal.
have you guys seen that movie from 1984, Beverly Hills Cop?
Oh, I heard about that movie. Yeah, he wears like tennis shoes and jeans through the whole thing.
Those are actually some sweet Adidas that he's rocking.
I know. I like those Adidas. I remember those days.
Cool. Yeah.
I had those.
Look. Oh, here's the banana in the tailpipe scene.
Banana in the tailpipe.
There we go.
He's taking bananas and putting them in a tailpipe.
I did read today that they were originally supposed to be potatoes, and then there was some sort of, I'm just saying, they didn't have the kitchen setup that they needed, and they were like, well, we already got this buffet. Damon Wayans is here, being effeminate.
So if my theory's true, and the screenwriter, it's like, who masterminded this?
Well,
was it just God? Was it are these all coincidences that are going to give me like a great thesis? Like if I go back to grad school?
And again, and I had sort of mentioned Eddie Murphy being kind of subversive, and this is one thing that I did talk to Dan about that I don't think a lot of writers would say, but he actually gave Eddie Murphy a lot of credit for improvising a lot of the lines. So, which sometimes writers won't do that, and there's this sort of this tug of war between actors and writers about like who's really creating a character, and he really did give Eddie Murphy credit. And he said the thing that he was incredibly good at improving was he was able to take the line that was spoken to him, take it in whatever direction he wanted, but at the end always bring it back to the whoever he was acting opposite, their next line, so that he wouldn't leave them hanging with like, oh, that was really funny, but like we can't, like this guy's got to say this now, and this isn't gonna like move the script along. And I thought that was pretty cool. He said that Eddie Murphy.
Well, and also and that goes to Eddie Murphy's stand up.
Right.
He's got that time. He's got that sensibility of how things should flow and where the end should be and where the punctuation should be.
Right. Yeah.
And you could tell that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I asked him about the scene, because then I was like, well, okay, so the scene when he's trying to get into the exclusive, the Hero Club, that that place where Victor Maitland is with Jonathan Banks, his stooge. I said, like, what did you write for that? Because it's the scene where
I want
Eddie
to
Murphy
see
basically pretends to be this gay guy named Ramon.
Because I want to see the Sylvester Stallone version.
Oh yeah, I know.
This.
Can you imagine?
Tell him Ramon is here and that he's got a type 17 herpes something complex.
So so I asked Dan about that, and Dan said that the way it was originally written, Eddie Murphy was delivering this uncomfortable message, but he wasn't the person who actually had the herpes simplex 10. So Eddie created that whole situation.
So that's answering some of my questions.
So
is that like Eddie is taking he's
taking liberties.
Yeah.
No, but he's also he's not afraid of having Axel be seen as this effete character.
Right, or at least sort of like androgynous, right? Like it is.
I mean maybe I just need to rewatch everything Eddie Murphy was in for this book
too, yeah.
But but as soon as I thought that, it's like the way he stands even when shooting, like there's just something like.
Well, it's a weird, it's that fun line.
He did get caught with that transsexual.
That's true. Yeah, he does have an interesting history.
Is this the truest Eddie Murphy?
I don't know.
Is this his autobiography?
Right. Yeah, wow. Well, it is weird. Yeah, when he enters his apartment, when he comes back, and it's his buddy who broke into it, and he's moving through there with his gun. Yeah. He does look more like a ballet dancer, right? Like he's incredibly
nimble on his feet.
And it's like, but it is, he does move in a bit of an effeminate way, which is interesting.
But it's also like, if this is what it's about, it's also being like, but this guy's a badass. He's a great cop. He's like not by the book. And then again, I think what's weird is like the real sort of like through line is like that he's teaching these cops to not do things like so much by the book.
Right.
It is a buddy cop thing. But then an interesting thing about this screenplay is that like starting to watch it, it's like, okay, Judge Reinhold's gonna be his counterpart, this straight lace, like sort of like
pretty
boy, high school wide receiver, like golden retriever looking guy.
Yeah.
And it's him with two other cops,
right?
Which is like kind of a weird, interesting setup for what you assume is going to be a buddy cop, but it's Taggart, who's the actor's name I don't know. John Ashton,
yeah.
and then Judge Reinhold's Rosewood, And so he's kind of equally playing off either of them,
Right.
which is an unusual thing for a movie like this, which is normally a 48 hours type of
Right.
setup.
But, you know, also he gets punched to the stomach and he compliments Taggart on the punch.
Right.
You know, so and that has like a BDSM connotation to it.
All right,
So,
now I
you
feel
know,
like we've
really,
officially.
really,
now,
I'm just saying.
now I
I'm
think we've
just
gone too
saying.
far.
I will
now.
say there are funny relationships between the characters even away from Axel. Though there's that great scene when they're waiting for him to come back to the hotel, and they're just sitting in the car together, and he's reading a magazine, Rosewood is, and he says, this says that by the time the American man is age 50, he has up to 5 pounds of undigested red meat floating around in his
Why
mouth.
would you think this would be interesting to me
Exactly.
at all?
Yeah. I know
All right,
you've
so
been eating
so
a lot of
Steve,
red meat.
is there any other little things that you want to talk about that you asked Dan, Dan tidbits?
Let's see. Well, I kind of covered that improvisational thing. I would say, let's see.
What?
Oh, the other thing he did say, and this is again, I think, I mean, Eddie Murphy is Eddie Murphy is kind of amorphous in this movie in that, like, in some scenes he does transition to be the straight man, and that was the other kind of credit that he gave Eddie, was that he was able to, like.
You mean this straight in a comedic sense?
I do mean this in a.
Okay, I needed actual
But he
clarity.
was able to.
I needed clarity.
He was just. It seemed like he was almost just like a great team player, even though he is a star. And this was one of his early starring roles. He was able to, like.
It's rather ensemble. It's surprisingly ensemble.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are, he's not in every single scene. I mean, he's in most of them, but there are, bits here and there.
It doesn't read like he is trying to Chevy Chase himself and
All right, so
make himself an enormous star.
So where did this go? Let's talk about the sequel. Obviously this movie it turned into a franchise,
right?
And so tell us, what you know about the franchise.
Yeah, I tried. It's weird. In a way, I consciously kind of tried to. Well, I'll say this: I've seen Beverly Hills Cop 2. I have not seen 3 because
I've heard you should.
It's one of those where it's like
it's Godfather 3.
And so I steered clear. I remember thinking that the second one, I think there was like the alphabet killer was the main bad guy in that one. So there was like these alphabet crimes going on.
This is a real guy though,
and they did bring back most of the gang for that, and that movie did fairly well at the box office. But then, I never saw 3. There's been a 4 in development for years.
Now,
that I don't think will
so.
ever
Is
happen.
Eddie Murphy in all 3?
He's in all 3,
Uh-huh.
and I was just reading today, he gave an interview with the LA Times like last year where he referenced Beverly Hills Cop 4. So if there is a 4, sounds like he'll be in it. I don't know if it'll be. He's aged really well. I don't know if
He has,
like,
yeah. He still looks good.
Still looks quite, quite young.
Is this franchise technically related to Beverly Hills Ninja?
Great question.
I have a follow-up.
That's the Chris. Okay.
Is
Chris
this
Farley Ninja
Is this
right?
movie technically related to Beverly Hills Chihuahua?
Oh wow, that's an even better question. Or Troop Beverly Hills.
Or Beverly Hillbillies?
Oh yeah, or Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, yes. Or
what else is there?
How far down the rabbit hole of Beverly Hills can we go? Is it a rabbit hole or a tailpipe? We ask you, the listener, to answer.
Down and Out might have killed it, but it's I will say it's a trope of an outsider showing up in Beverly Hills had been done. It was the Beverly Hillbillies.
Right.
Like it is the stand-in for bougie sort of removed elite culture, which you throw in someone who like doesn't belong there, and like comedy ensues. It's kind of like humor 101.
Right, yeah, totally. I do think one thing the film does well is paint that picture with just very basic scenes, like him just driving down the.
You guys know who directed Beverly Hills Cop 2? It's a little bit sad.
Oh no.
I'm
Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah. Tony Scott.
Tony Scott,
wow. The late great Tony Scott.
Oh wow. How about that?
Interesting.
Yeah,
I would not have known that.
What were you saying though? It was
I was just saying that just the scenes of him like driving through Beverly Hills in his like beat up Chevy Nova, and you just see like the Fendi store and the Louis Vuittons, and you get like very quickly you have the woman in like the little dress like walking the huge dog down the street. Like they're able to, and that's 10 minutes removed from the opening in Detroit, and it's like they really just mirrored that in a
well,
way.
they're really cutting against the culture that led to movies like Oliver Stone's Wall Street that came out in '87, where everything was this consumerist. Everybody, what's it called when I have the best thing, I have the Fendi and you don't.
Like
I have the Rolls Royce,
one-upping,
and you don't. And that's an interesting thing about this character is that at the end of this little adventure, he's going to be back in stinky old Detroit.
Right, yeah.
And we didn't really talk about the opening car chase scene, but I gotta say that's a pretty awesome car chase, and everyone's making a big deal out of Baby Driver.
Yeah,
Baby Driver's okay.
Yeah.
They're very B-. The car chase scene in this thing with the beginning with the bus, when the bus does that 180 in the street,
yeah.
I mean that kicks serious, hardcore,
and that is all just
car racing ass.
Actual shit happening.
That's right. Yeah,
cars used to crumple.
Oh,
they were not breakaway. Yeah, no, it's like they were competing against the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Well, this is not long after the Blues Brothers.
Totaling cop cars.
Well, and I love how psychotic the driver of that truck is. He's just he's literally like, you can see both his hands, which is surprising because it looks like he's just like masturbating. While he's just like when he takes out that fruit truck, like he's just so like he's just so
he's really taking shit out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fucking shit up.
Yeah, no, that is a cool scene. That is.
It's a great way to open your movie,
right?
And I just saw the Little Hours. This. I think it's supposed to be a comedy.
That's the one about the nuns.
Yeah, and it's so horrible based on the Decameron. And when any movie, you come on, you got to give it to me in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
You got to.
So you're saying that one doesn't?
No, it doesn't have anything like that. And at least but
only like 5 cop cars got total.
And this is what I'll say. But this is the thing about '80s movies, because they're all like this,
right?
Where they hook you. They're really gonna hook you. They're not gonna mess around. They're gonna hook you. And this movie really hooks you.
Yeah, and I back from my my screenwriting past. I did note, I was like, oh, his buddy gets killed within the first 15 minutes, and then like 20 minutes in, he's in Beverly Hills. Like they hit those marks in terms of
those marks, those beats. Is that a thing as a writer that you're conscious of? And
is there something they teach you, and that's in all the books that you read?
Inciting incident, crisis decision. You got to have them.
Are these things that you can kind of like just kind of know about and throw out, or do you have to kind of like embed these things and then like transcend it and like break
I
those
think that's the
rules?
thing. Yeah, you don't if you were to just, and I mean you having written yourself, right? If you like just try to like follow all the rules, like a Beverly Hills police officer or something. You're going to end up with something that's like technically proficient but might not be any good. So I think I think it's good to like know the rules. And
when I first learned them, I was like everybody, you think, oh, it can't really be that way. It's not really like that.
Right.
And then you realize you look at movies through that filter and you realize every single movie is like that. It really is. It really does function as 3-act structure.
Right.
It's very rare that there's probably 1.8% of all movies that somehow fudge that 3-act structure.
Right. And what percent of good movies do? It's a small number. I mean, there are some definitely.
And the tweaking of it does seem like it's somewhat knowing, and they tend to be, I think, movies that people who are very clued into film are aware of.
Right.
And so even if you're not very explicitly conscious of it, like that like the movie is sort of like making you believe you're going to get this certain sort of
it's a story. You're telling a story,
right?
And every story's got to have a beginning, a middle, and the end. So if you're going to tell somebody a story, hey, I want to tell you this story about when I got jumped when I was 13. I just told Mike this story before before we do have some chatty time before we get down to business. But it's always like you got to tell someone a story. You got to hook them,
right?
This is the thing. This is the thing that happened.
Cole did this effectively. He walked into the room carrying nunchucks, and he was like, "I'm going to tell you a story about these nunchucks."
Wow, that's
see, there you go.
That's great. That's basically Chekhov's, Chekhov's gun, right? I mean, like,
that's
I'm
right.
going to show you these nunchucks.
That's right.
Something's gonna happen with them.
And when I say nunchucks, I mean a photo of nunchucks, because I googled it and learned that nunchucks are illegal, and I would never claim that Cole owns nunchucks in New York City.
That's right. That's right.
What?
Yeah.
Can you own them with a license?
No.
Wow. Wow.
Upper East Side Ninja, the new in development film by Smythe Productions.
The one other quick thing, we were just talking about the writing. I do think it's interesting, and I'm actually wondering, and maybe you know this. So this movie made $234 million at the box office.
That's pretty good for 1984.
And it beat out
$1 billion.
It beat out Karate Kid, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Nice. Wow. It beat out Indiana Jones.
Yeah, some like
serious.
pretty, some pretty big
That's
movies.
an insane
That's
box.
Right. It is. Yeah, it is crazy. It also, though, it was nominated for Best Original Screenplay for an Oscar. And I was wondering, I wonder how many movies that, especially in like today's entertainment environment, how many movies hit both of those marks? Like I was wondering, I was like, maybe like Titanic did back in the day, maybe Avatar. I don't know. In terms of like having the box office
James
performance
Cameron,
and also be like, that now it's just a Furious movie every year, and those don't seem to get nominated for many.
Right, and that is a category that's specifically tends to.
Well, and we didn't, we never.
It's
funny that we never even once really addressed the cross-racial issue in this movie, but there is this cross-cultural aspect of the Fish Out of Water is referencing Detroit, and they talk about it's crime's pretty bad in Detroit.
Yeah,
and Axel says, yeah, it is, and here he is in Beverly Hills, and you're seeing this different kind of crime, different kind of people, but Eddie Murphy is this interloper, this black interloper, and there's never a question about his race the whole time.
Well, and what's interesting
it's
is
subtext. I would disagree with that.
Yeah,
yeah. Like he brings it up, and maybe it's improv or not, but like at the hotel, and then also when he's thrown out of the office through the window. And
then immediately gets arrested.
And is immediately arrested.
He doesn't get shot. Liz, what would happen today?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna bring up. Is this movie due for a gritty reboot rather than a fourth Cole? Right.
That could be interesting. A fourth Cole.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be interesting. Yeah. Well, one thing. I mean, I guess this is what's weird is that it turned into this huge box office hit. Is that I don't know how many movies today that turn into massive box office successes are scripted without the actor already in the development process. The fact that like this guy was handed the script a month before they started shooting, like, so it was not written for a black or white person, really.
Right? And
that, in a way, I think that's maybe part of why it doesn't come up that much. It does come up here and there, and like, I don't know. It's a sort of an interesting element of it, because nowadays I feel like any movie that's that becomes like a box office smash and an international success, it's like the pieces are assembled and then the script is written somewhere in the process, but once after most.
Well, you really feel like Martin Brest handed Eddie Murphy the football and said, run any route you want.
Right.
And Eddie's aye, captain, and he just took it.
Right. Would you say this seems unequivocal to me, but it's like, though Eddie Murphy is making this more of an ensemble piece than I think people remember and would imagine, he's the reason why this movie made over $200 million.
Yeah,
absolutely. This phenomenon. I think it's hard for. I mean, I don't know if you guys would realize this. I wasn't actually alive in 1984.
Well, he was coming off of all the Saturday Night Live.
That's kind of what I ask and talk about. Is like
very popular.
How he was
48 hours.
Huge.
Yeah.
Right. It was like astronomical. There's really not comedy stars like this anymore.
No. Yeah. That's the story.
Yeah, and I mean, this is definitely like, this was kind of a breakthrough for him in terms of like he was the poster, right? Like Trading Places, it was him and Dan Aykroyd. 48 Hours is him and Nick Nolte, and this one it was like, no, this one's like you.
Yeah.
And there's some other people we've seen before in it, like the guy from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's the guy from Fast Times. He grew up and became a cop.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't deliver pizza anymore for the pirate company or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, but it was like we're gonna put this all on you, and that at that time, that just connected.
There's these sort of throwaway references to Michael Jackson, but and the thing that's appropriate about it is like he's kind of the Michael Jackson of first comedy and then movies at this point. Like he's that big, you know. So like,
and he was also a recording artist.
My girl likes to party all the time. Yeah. He had that one.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Well, he had some really he had some really great comedy albums, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, those probably went like multi-platinum, right?
Yeah.
Like those just insanely popular.
Well, I want to thank Steve for coming on the show. If you guys want to check out mademan.com,
absolutely
go there. There's all sorts of cool stuff that I'm really looking forward to checking out. I know there's a thing about what cocktails famous people like to drink. I'm really curious about what drink Ernest Hemingway was his signature
in Six
cocktail.
Pack. Six Pack. Where can we listen to Six Pack?
And Six Pack is on iTunes. So you can find it there. Just look for the icon that's an actual six pack.
Six pack of beer.
Yeah, as opposed to like somebody's stomach.
So go there, follow it, like it, do all that good stuff, and you can see all of our. We're gonna take a photo in a minute here, so there'll be a photo. You can see what Steve looks like in the flesh.
You see a six pack.
And you can see that on colesmithy.com under the podcast section. I should tell you all that I am launching a walking tour called Fifth and Park, which you will be able to book through my website.
But Cole, what if I wanted to see where some like famous movies were filmed?
That's what I'm telling you. It's gonna be it's gonna be it's gonna happen at noon, Sunday through Friday, and that's gonna launch on August 1st. And if you guys want to help support us, you can go to, if you are on colesmithy.com, you can find our link to Patreon, where you can pledge your support to help keep this lovely podcast coming. And I want to thank you all for listening, and please do us a favor and turn your cell phones off when you're walking, driving, riding a bicycle, or watching a movie.